Long live the king. The life of Nat King Cole. One of the most recognizable smooth crooners in America, Nat King Cole was the genius behind beloved songs such as Smile, Unforgettable, and the Christmas song. A true icon, Cole rose to stardom because of his true talent. To understand his line, "Smile though your heart is aching," an innate love for music. Born in the heart of the Deep South in 1919, Nathaniel Adams Coles lived with his family in Montgomery, Alabama. Despite their hostile surroundings outside, the inside of the Coles family home was always full of life and love. Little Nat's natural gift for music became apparent by age 4 when he began tinkering on the organ his mother played at church. His parents were Edward James Coles, a minister at Beulah Baptist Church, and Perlina Adams Coles, who sang in the choir. Cole had 4 siblings, all of whom had musical talent. That same year, the family packed up their belongings and headed north to Chicago to escape the ever-escalating prejudice in their hometown. While his father preached at the local Baptist church, Nat continued experimenting with music, winning his first talent contest at age 10. 2 years later, his official lessons began. Music revealed his rebellious side. At age 12, Nathaniel began comprehensive music lessons that introduced him to everything from jazz and gospel to classical pieces from Johann Sebastian Bach. Though he loved every genre, the upbeat melodies of jazz soon became his favorite. While attending Wendell Phillips High School, Nat jumped at the opportunity to participate in Walter Diet's music program at DuSable. There he met other teens who were just as passionate about jazz. Nathaniel was an intelligent kid who was typically well-behaved. His love for music and his new cohorts inspired his rebellious side. Unbeknownst to his parents, Nat would sneak out to watch his favorite musicians at the local clubs. Sitting on the steps outside the dive bars, he would relish in the jazz melodies of legendary artists such as Louis Armstrong, Earl Hines, and Jimmy No One. Music made him confident. Nat's ever-growing passion for jazz inspired him to form a band of his own with his pals. The Rogues of Rhythm began playing at any venue that would have them, sometimes paid with a meal and sometimes not at all. Soon, his talent caught the attention of the press, which allowed him to challenge his jazz idol, Earl Hines, in a battle of the bands. Unbelievably, the teens beat the legend. Word began to spread, Nat could play. Of course, Nat's parents were extremely proud of their talented son. Even so, his next decision made them incredibly concerned. With his newfound success, Nat announced that he was officially dropping out of high school to go on tour with his brother's band Eddie Cole's Swingsters. Excited and determined, the brothers left home to accompany the Broadway musical Shuffle Along. When the Chicago run of Shuffle Along came to an end, both brothers were asked to continue the tour on the West Coast. This was unexpected as their original plan was to perform with the orchestra and then return to playing the nightclubs with their own band, Eddie Cole's Swingsters. Of course, Eddie tried to convince his brother to stay in Chicago, but Nat decided to follow his heart. Nat had fallen in love with a dancer from Shuffle Along named Nadine Robinson. This was an unconventional relationship as he was only 17 while she was an entire decade older. Despite his brother's influence and the scandalous age gap, Nat only wanted to be with Nadine. He agreed to continue the tour on the West Coast, and within a year, the couple tied the knot. Now 18, Nat and his wife took up residence in Los Angeles, where he found work playing piano for several big bands in the local nightclub scene. Though Nat had already toyed with the idea of dropping the S from his last name, that wasn't enough to make him stand out. Then, he got an idea. A bar manager approached Nat and asked him to form his own band to perform at the venue. After finding a bassist and a guitarist to accompany his piano playing, they came up with the name King Cole Swingsters, which they later changed to the King Cole Trio. Named after the nursery rhyme Old King Cole, the trio dominated the stage, with Nat being the shining star on the piano. Soon enough, though, he would reveal another talent he had kept hidden. One drunken request. By now, Nat was regarded as one of the best piano players in the LA jazz scene, making the King Cole Trio a major attraction. Their sets included jazz medleys and classic hits. However, the players were also happy to take requests. At this time, Nat only sang a line or two as backup, leaving his bandmates to perform the majority of the vocals. Well, one night, an overserved patron came forward demanding that Nat sing. Knowing that the vocals were primarily sung by his bandmates, the pianist waved the request in their direction. This did not appease the drunken man. Instead, it made him more adamant that Nat take the lead. Hoping to keep the peace, Nat sang his rendition of Sweet Lorraine, shocking the entire audience with his velvet vocals. The requests kept coming, and before he knew it, Nat was the new lead singer. During the late 30s and early 40s, radio was the main source of nightly entertainment for families in America. As a singer, landing a spot on air could catapult your career. Unfortunately for people of color, segregation laws limited their possibility of exposure. That changed in 1946. Because of their popularity and talent, Nat's band landed a 15-minute radio show called King Cole Trio Time, the first program ever sponsored by black musicians. Their 15-minute spot brought the trio national attention, and soon, the members were given a contract with Capitol Records. Between 1946 and 1948, the band kept busy recording transcriptions for the label. With hits like Route 66 and the Christmas Song, they were invited to appear on numerous syndicated programs, including the Chesterfield Supper Club and Swing Soiree. With his career taking off, Nat reflected on his training and began to combine musical genres to create hits such as Get Your Kicks on Route 66, For Sentimental Reasons, and Nature Boy. While the pop-oriented songs were popular with consumers, jazz musicians became increasingly critical, calling the singer a sellout who only made music for commercial gain. Nat remained relatively unfazed by the accusations coming from his fellow musicians. He was proud of the music he was recording and continued combining elements of jazz with other genres such as classical and rock. Following his pop releases, he then surprised his audience with a pure jazz album entitled After Midnight just to keep his critics guessing. Nat King Cole would no longer be confined to a musical box. Too many temptations. Nat's newfound fame kept him busier than ever. When he wasn't recording or appearing in radio spots, the singer went on the road to play at nightclubs across the country. Yes, fame definitely had its perks, but it also caused problems between Nat and Nadine. Traveling across the country meant that the star was never home. Sadly, in their marriage, absence did not make the heart grow fonder. Nat King Cole was an incredibly talented musician who was also extremely handsome. Female fans flocked to his shows, making themselves available should he need some company. Of course, Nat took full advantage of this great opportunity. Meanwhile, Nadine was back home, concerned about the temptation that surrounded her husband. Though she prayed he was only having a fling or two, a love note in his pocket from another woman confirmed her greatest fear. The meaningless one-night stands abruptly ended when Nat met Maria Hawkins at Club Zanzibar in New York City. A jazz singer hired as his opening act, the dazzling woman blew Nat away at first glance. It no longer mattered that he and Nadine agreed to start a family upon his return, and he had no concerns that she had given up her career. All that mattered was convincing Maria to stay by his side. It wasn't a hard sell. After a few drinks over lively conversation, Nat invited Maria to accompany him on tour. Now, Maria knew he was married, even saying later that she felt guilty for spending time with another woman's man. Even so, after a quick stop for a toothbrush, the new couple went on their way. For Nat, it was love at first sight and the end of his marriage. Nat King Cole was blissfully in love with another woman and desperate to marry her. After breaking the news to poor Nadine, Nat filed for divorce and moved to New York City to wait with Maria until the papers were finalized. On March 22, 1948, he was officially free from his first marriage. Just 6 days later, he was saying, "I do," once again. The couple's wedding was a grand affair, the second largest in the history of Harlem as of 1948. The ceremony took place at the Abyssinian Baptist Church, followed by an extravagant reception with hundreds of guests at the Belmont Plaza. Sadly, the Belmont was Maria's second choice for the venue. Her ideal location unjustly refused their request based on the color of their skin. And yet, this wasn't the biggest disappointment of the day. Maria considered her Aunt Charlotte Hawkins Brown to be her mother figure as she raised her for most of her life. Because of her wealth, privilege, and prestigious schooling, Charlotte considered herself a member of the black elite, a higher class than the average person of color. As far as she was concerned, fame or not, Nat King Cole was not good enough for Maria. His skin was too dark, he never went to college, and he was from Alabama, of all places. Not only did Charlotte boycott the wedding, but she also convinced other members of Maria's family not to attend. As disappointing as their absence was, the couple was thrilled to be husband and wife. Unfortunately, after their dream honeymoon in Mexico, their reality back home became a nightmare. To start their new life together, Nat and his wife purchased a beautiful home in one of Law's wealthiest neighborhoods, Hancock Park. Unfortunately, both the racist neighbors and the Ku Klux Klan didn't care. They saw the color of their skin as an invitation for violence. Before their things were even out of boxes, the KKK staged a burning cross in the couple's backyard. Their neighbors were no different. They celebrated the racist act and began planning attacks of their own. Though they were the only black couple to relocate to the prestigious location, Cole and his new wife, Maria, were just beginning their lives together. The legendary crooner of standards including The Christmas Song, Nature Boy, Mona Lisa, and Unforgettable, had spent the last decade of his young life on the road, and he was eager to settle down and start a family. When they were not traveling, he and Maria, a singer and socialite of impeccable lineage, made do by staying at Laws Watkins Hotel. So, Maria hired a real estate agent named Joe Bradfield, and the couple started looking for a grand home fit for a king. They began their search in Beverly Hills, but according to Cole's biographer Daniel Mark Epstein, tourists and autograph seekers turned them off. They had already seen a dozen homes when they found themselves at an elegant brick Tudor mansion at 401 South Muirfield Road, in the stately neighborhood of Hancock Park. According to Epstein, Maria recalled that her husband walked through the great, wide oak door with its pointed arch, saw the sweeping staircase, and declared, "This is it." Before they had seen the bedrooms or the kitchen. The Coles decided to purchase the $85,000 home, which was being sold by Colonel Harry Gantz, on the spot. But this joyful decision would cause the couple and their growing family years of strife. For no matter how rich, famous, talented, and beautiful the Coles were, they were also black, and Hancock Park was a whites-only part of LA. Hancock Park was an interesting choice for anyone in the entertainment industry, black or white. The elegantly understated neighborhood of tasteful mansions and rolling green lawns was filled with old Los Angeles money, families who had made their fortune in oil, banking, and real estate. Here, most people have had money for a long time and don't feel the need to impress people with a big show, a Hancock Park matron once explained to the Los Angeles Times. This most correct of neighborhoods, the home of governors and CEOs, had a dark side. At an unnamed mansion in the neighborhood, residents formed the Hancock Park Property Owners Association. Attorney Andrew J. Kopp Jr. was elected as its chair, and according to Epstein, tasked to seek a solution to the problem. According to the Los Angeles Sentinel, one of the leading residents in the fight against the Coles was Rhoda Ringe Adamson, owner of Malibu's famed Adamson House and the daughter of the legendary May Ringe, who fought for decades to keep people out of Malibu. When it was established in the 1920s, Hancock Park was put under a 50-year restrictive covenant, which stated non-whites could not live in the neighborhood unless they were servants. This ugly racist policy had never been tested and exposed before, but the Coles would change that. Bradfield, the Coles' African-American real estate agent, was fully aware of this covenant. He hired a light-skinned black woman named Camille Lafotte to act as the couple's purchasing agent. Lafotte paid Gantz's agent, Ann Winters, a down payment of $6,000 in cash. She then transferred the deed to the Coles. When the genteel residents of Hancock Park discovered what was afoot, many were aghast. The association set to work. Publicly, members were tight-lipped about what they were planning. "I'm not making any statements of any kind," Kopp told the Sentinel. But privately, he was busy. He first went to Ciro's, where Nat was in residence, and spoke with his manager. Kopp, according to Epstein, was blunt. "Tell Mr. Cole if he will rescind the sale of his house, we will give him his money back with a little profit." Nat's manager went to confer with the singer and came back with his tongue-in-cheek reply, "If you give me $1 million, I'll leave the country." Kopp was not amused. "How would you like it if you had to come out of your home and see a Negro walking down the street wearing a big white hat, a zoot suit, a long chain, and yellow shoes?" he said. When the bribe did not work, the harassment and legal threats began. Both Gantz and Winters were threatened. According to Epstein, one angry Hancock Park resident hissed at Winters, "Don't you check out the people you sell to?"
And she said, "Yes, I do," when I asked them if they have the down payment.
Chastened and hurt by the negative press, Cole donated money to the Montgomery bus boycott, and took a number of hotels to court for hiring him to perform but refusing to serve him or let his family get a room. He joined other black entertainers in boycotting Jim Crow audiences, became a lifetime member of the NAACP, and took pains for the rest of his life to be a more visible participant in the civil rights movement, including playing a significant role in the 1963 March on Washington. Very soon after the civil rights events in Birmingham, he began his own TV show, a first for African American entertainers. Like Star Trek's Lieutenant Uhura, played by Nichelle Nichols, a decade later, Cole showed that, yes, there could be black people on TV and in Hollywood in non-serval roles, although there was a strong push to lighten his skin which he gave into when he first went on air. The Nat King Cole show lasted just over a year before he decided to pull it due to lack of corporate sponsorship. As he put it after closing the show, Madison Avenue is afraid of the dark. Taken by lung cancer in 1965 at 45, Cole's legacy as a pop singer and musician stands out to this day. He charted over 100 pop singles, and more than 24 albums in about 20 years, second only to Frank Sinatra. When Cole's wife remarked that he wasn't a fighter, she also said that mostly he just wanted to get along and perform his music. But in many ways, being who he was and doing the work he did, made him more of a fighter than perhaps even he knew. Nat King Cole, 45, world-renowned singer and jazz pianist, died in his sleep at St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica early Monday, 3 weeks after he had undergone surgery for removal of a cancerous left lung. His wife Maria, who was at his side, knew for several days he was dying, a hospital spokesman said, but she didn't want anything made public because he watched television constantly. Aware that he had cancer, the singer thought he was recovering after the removal of his lung, but doctors said the disease had spread beyond control. Only the day before his death, Cole was taken for a short ride in his car by his wife, and a few days earlier he had visited his children briefly at the family home, an imposing brick mansion at 401S. Muirfield Road in the Hancock Park district. Visitors were not permitted in Cole's sixth-floor hospital room. When comedian Jack Benny was visiting another friend, he inquired about Cole, and the singer invited him in for a 15-minute chat. Interviews were not allowed, but because of worldwide interest in the singer's recovery, Mrs. Cole wrote and released her own optimistic statements, as if they had come from him. The singer's father, the Rev. Edward B. Coles of North Chicago, died 2 weeks ago in Chicago. We had to tell Nat, and I guess it made him turn for the worse, his brother Eddie said in Honolulu. He loved our dad. We could see him change right then.
According to New York Daily News, the singer's death came 2 weeks to the day after his father, the Reverend Edward B. Coles, 78, died in Chicago. Nat's brother, Eddie, said in Honolulu that Cole was told of his father's death and that may have helped hasten his own end.
His wife Maria, who was at his side, knew for several days he was dying, a hospital spokesman said, but she didn't want anything made public because he watched television constantly. Born Nathaniel Adams Coles. March 17, 1919. Montgomery, Alabama, U.S. Died February 15, 1965, aged 45. Santa Monica, California.
As you leave the page, don't forget to hit the like bell and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so as yet. Thank you for watching.